Hi, this is Kelly Haddis, and welcome to Win the Room TV, the place for all things communication, from public speaking to social media. And sometimes we even bring you interviews with transformational leaders, like the one this week. I'm talking to Stuart Ross of High Growth. Stuart is the managing director of one of UK's leading executive coaching practices, and he works with fast-growing companies across the globe. His company, High Growth, provides the right amount of strategic coaching for the desired result. You don't want to miss my conversation with Stuart. Welcome, Stuart. It's so great to have you on the show today. I am delighted that you're here. I love what you do, and I love your company, and I, like you, am very interested in helping businesses to develop better techniques and better insights how they can be more successful. So one of the things that I would love to talk with you today about is what exactly is a high growth business?
That's a good question. I mean, for me, high growth is a mindset. There are a lot of companies which claim to be high growth or want to be high growth, but are not really committed to becoming high growth. To be a high growth company, you need to make that decision. That decision to become high growth and recognize in terms of you need new skills, new disciplines, new practices, and you're going on a path, you're going on a journey, and you need to learn faster than your competitors, you need to grow rapidly. So it starts off with a decision, and I think primarily the high growth is a mindset, which leaders have within the organizations.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that mindset that business people need now is to be one of also a creative outlook, not only having the strategies in place, but also knowing how to creatively structure their business better, and to also creatively structure relationships so that it helps both sides. Can you talk a little bit about how you help people develop that mindset?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it starts off with, let's say, them making that decision to actually grow and grow the sort of company. They also need to recognize, I guess, what's got them where they are today isn't going to get them in terms of where they want to go. So one of the first areas I do with businesses and business owners is get them to understand where they want to go, get them to define that vision, get them to buy into that vision, get them to own that vision, get them to experience, that vision. Once we've done that, the first part I actually work with is very much around the actual leadership style. I mean, you mentioned there, in terms of, leaders need to be comfortable and stuff with themselves. They need to be sort of creative. So very much I start by working about being an authentic leader. Having that discipline, having the energy, having the actual focus to enable sort of that growth, and also that creative mindset. You need to think out the box. You're going to be successful in this world. You've got to think very differently to your competitors. And if you, again, come back to if you always do what you always done, you always can get what you always got. So, you've got to change the way of thinking. And, that is where you're going to get the greatest insights, the greatest ideas, and that's what's going to give you the edge over your competitors.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's really great insight. And you brought up something that I often touch upon, and that's energy. And sometimes a lot of people don't understand that leaders do require a higher energy level. And how can that be taught? To a lot of people, it seems esoteric, when we speak in terms of energy. But it's real. And I think if you want to affect more people in your operation, and if you want to affect worldwide, you need to have that energy. So can you talk a little bit about how that energy might be achieved, and what are some of the results when that energy is in place?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, the analogy I often use is that comparing to athletes. You think athletes, professional athletes, they train for 95% of the time. They then perform 5% of the time. Yeah, and you think in terms of the executives or the top entrepreneurs, they perform for 90% of the time and only sort of rest or train for 5% of the time. So it's totally the reverse. So what is key is they actually build in some serious re-energizing time. Time to get creative, time to think outside the box. Time to get them to have that perspective. One of the great stories I love is about sort of Bill Gates when he left Microsoft to the actual Gates Foundation. And he's saying, okay, what's the one thing you're going to go and take sort of with you? And he said, I'm going to take away my Think Week. So every quarter he used to go away for a week and actually go re-energize, think, plan, strategize, learn. And that was the way that he used to boost himself for the actual next quarter. Now, my argument is, executives need to be doing that at a minimum. I think they need to look at their energy cycles throughout the day. It's perhaps no accident that the top executives out there, the top entrepreneurs, they're also great athletes. They train and do exercise first thing in the morning. They recognise they've got a rhythm of energy throughout the day, and they need to build in time to go and re-energise that. So it's one of the first areas I actually do work with executives to make sure they've got that the energy, they're following in terms of their natural energy sort of rhythms, and they build in time within their busy schedule to go and re-energise.
It's very interesting because I think of energy as something that is sort of learned. We start out having a certain amount of energy in life, and usually that energy is a fairly high energy, but then all these cultural influences come in, and it really messes with our energy level. So we tend to sometimes be under our energy. And do you think, I agree with you about the part about how athletes really understand that and they get that. In order to perform at a high level, they need to be at a higher energy, because that's when really the ideas start to happen. That's when you can really start to influence people and make a change. And like you said, be a great leader. That's when you begin to transform others. Now, you talked about the physical level, right? So I'm just curious, when you work with your clients, do you do anything on that physical level to get them to a higher energy? Because, not all CEOs or not all leaders have the athletic ability, but yet we can get them to a higher level. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I believe that everybody can do some sort of some physical exercise or something every day for their body to go and help regain energy. So one thing I do, say with all my clients, is we initially look at their schedule and we make sure we actually build in really at the start of the day and the end of the day some sort of exercise and also meditation and stuff as well. So again, getting that mind in the actual sort of right sort of mindset. To me, those are critical parts of, again, any successful entrepreneur, and those do need to be built into their schedule.
I think that's great. And you also work with entrepreneurs as well, right? Entrepreneurs in corporations. And for those of our audience who are not really familiar with that term, it's like an entrepreneur, only they're in a corporation, and that's why they're called entrepreneur. And what they are doing is they're bringing creative ideas and projects to the forefront so that corporations can succeed, because it's been amazing what entrepreneurs have achieved in the last several years. But can you talk a little bit, Stuart, about the level of, we're introducing something, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit looser in the UK, but I feel like some of my clients here, when we talk about meditation, especially if they're on the corporate side, or if we're talking about energy, it's like, whoa, wait a second. You know what I mean? What did I get myself into here? But I think that it's so important, that idea of, let's really try to relax ourselves and let's really try and get clear about what we want. And, do you have any tips around that for people who are resistant to getting to a deeper level in themselves? Because it's really about self-awareness.
Yeah, I agree totally. I mean, a couple of points on that. So on the one side, I think it is about self-awareness. And I see in terms of the most successful leaders, whether inside or outside of corporations, they are what I call authentic leaders. They understand in terms of their purpose, they understand their vision, they understand sort of their values. And one of the first things I do when I go into big corporations is we go through that. And we reconnect them in terms of with who they really are. That helps them become a lot more authentic and also a lot more effective, in their roles. On the other side of your question, you're right. A lot of people do think in terms of, when you start thinking yoga or meditation, it's very much hocus pocus type sort of stuff. But there's some great sort of apps and stuff now, and it's becoming more acceptable, particularly in terms of this whole concept of mindfulness. And one of the areas I'm very much developing in the actual UK with businesses here is this whole concept, what I call business mindfulness. And it really spreads throughout the organisation because it covers both the individual and then being mindful and understanding themselves and how they feel, their energy levels, but also understanding the pulse of the team and the pulse of the organisation and getting them aligned. That's what makes that success. And I see that whether in the corporate world or whether, with entrepreneurs in smaller companies. Getting those three elements aligned, really works effectively.
That's a great way of explaining it. That really, really is. And I hope that more people adopt to that idea because it is so important. In today's leadership style, it has changed so significantly from the days of the blue chip companies. So people really need to be more in touch. And as you said, have the pulse of their team. And I think the only way that you can get there is to gain that mindfulness. So that's powerful. Now I did watch your video, the Growth Summit conference, and it looks like so much fun. People look very happy. They look like they're learning lots of stuff, and you have lots of presenters. And I also noticed someone there performing. And I thought, that's really great because in the middle of all of this serious, heavy content, we have a guy playing the guitar and singing. So I loved it. I love it.
And that was quite interesting. That was a bit of a risk, and I think it was. Some people totally loved it. Other people felt very uncomfortable. And it's very interesting to watch the audience's reaction. And we're about to another High Growth Summit, so next week, and we've got something similar from a TV type background coming in again, giving that whole creative element, in there. Because the whole thing is about getting people out of their comfort zones, getting them challenged, and getting them to think differently.
It's disruptive.
And something like that does it. It's disruptive.
It's disruptive. Right, and I agree. There's probably a lot of people who are uncomfortable with that, but you being the leader that you are, I'm sure they're trusting that they're in a safe place and that they can get to where they need to go. So could you just talk a little bit about what the summit is about?
Yeah, certainly the summit, one of the challenges, I guess, more in the UK and also globally, is bringing together sort of high growth companies. I'm very much of the belief in terms of who you mix with is who you become. And, I think Jim Rohn mentioned that. It was in Think and Grow Rich many sort of years ago. And one of the key barriers which holds back many high growth companies or leaders becoming high growth is they're mixing with the wrong people. So part of what we do with the High Growth Summit is we bring, those people with the right mindset, which are challenging, which will stretch, which people, at higher types of levels, and it's bringing people together. So they're in that right mix of people, that right supportive environment, which will help them go to that next level. So one of the exercises we actually do within there, we do something called masterminding. So we break down into groups, and again, they help solve an individual's particular sort of challenge in their business or personally. But again, that group think from people at the same or higher level than them. Again, they come away with some amazing insights and something which can really sort of accelerate the growth of their business.
It looks really amazing. It really does.
We'll get you there next year.
Yes. Yay. I'll be there. I'm so excited. Well, I can't thank you enough for contributing to Win the Room this week. Your insights are incredibly valuable, and you're on the other side of the globe, and I think it's really important to get another perspective, because I think sometimes we get so caught up locally, but the world is global now. And that's one of the things that I really love about interviewing people like you, because of the rich perspective that you bring. So I thank you so much for that. And I will have all of your information placed underneath this video so people can find you. But would you mind just letting us know now where we can contact you, maybe about the conference, your website?
Yeah, I mean, the best place to go directly to my website, highgrowthacademy.com. And again, you've got all the information there. And again, if you've got any questions about what we've been talking about, again, just email me directly at Stuart@high-growth.co.uk.
Oh, that's so great, Stuart. You gave a lot of very juicy tips. So I really appreciate that. And it was just so much fun having you today. Thank you, and best of luck to you next week.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. See you soon.
Okay, bye.